Hello, live for our Jedi Mindset, and I am super late. Was having some technical issues there getting on live. That's okay. We're telling your people that you're live. Okay, we are live on YouTube, and I don't think that the information got put on Facebook or not Facebook, YouTube earlier, but here we are. We're live and we're going a little bit earlier today. So, hi guys. Hi. Good to see you. We're going to talk about something that is probably, and again, it's all important, but we're going to give some information today. I'm going to be channeling some of it. We're going to be talking about currency and your time. So the Jedi Mind hack that I want to offer you guys is something that I have been working diligently in my own reality to master. So the idea of being a Jedi master is one who literally uses source energy, right, in that funneled way of channeling the elements, which is the 4 levels of consciousness, which is you, into manifesting your ultimate heaven on earth or your own matrix. So if you look back at the start of when I started doing these lives, there really is a synchronization of this process. And so it's kind of like the philosophy is that, yes, we come in here acting like Houdini. We imprison ourselves in our childhood. We forget that we are connected. We forget that we are God. We forget all of this. And then when we wake up, we have that free will choice. Do I want to live in someone else's game, or do I want to create my own game? Because you are the actor, director, producer, editor. You are all of those things. And I know by this point, you've heard all of this now, but the how. That's what I have always found is so interesting. And I've never really been one to listen to other people's podcasts or get down on those other rabbit holes because I can direct channel. But the how seems to be, it's like YouTube is filled with people talking about certain things. Where's the how? Like, give me the how. I just want to know how to do it. Yes, I know we create our own reality. Yes, I know this. Yes, I know this. But how do we do it? So, and I'm sure you've heard this before, that time is your currency, blah, 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 right? And you're thinking, okay, well, and I know that you're probably brewing with the energy of looking at the reset on its way. Like, what's going to happen with the reset? Are we going to have a new money system? Should we all be, buying Bitcoin? What should we do? What should we be doing? And for those of us who are not necessarily like business savvy or 3D savvy, that tend to be more Imagineers, or more artists by nature, it's like, where do we fall into the whole new collective system if we're not ahead of the curve, knowing, business or finance or things like that? And so I got you covered, because really, ultimately, you are a complete package to manifest anything and everything that your heart desires within you. You do not need the money system. You do not need anything, but you will use every essence that you have, that you technically own. Because by now we know money is just, it's not even real. It's like time. But then I'm saying, well, time is your currency. And we're saying, well, time's not real. But how you create, at least until we are all the way in the 5th and 6th dimension, we are going to be using time and space to create. So the people that are saying, well, time is an illusion, okay, well, that's their story, right? But they still have a human being that is operating in time. And for you to be able to truly manifest your desires, you're going to use time. Because time is how you're going to reprogram yourself. Time is going to be how you program the new you, the new avatar. The new avatar is going to then become the 3D printer of the new playground and the new playmates. So the Jedi mindset is all about an operating system. It is about you and I being able to create from basically our thoughts, emotions, our embodiment, and our spiritual awareness to create anything and everything, because the number 4 equals a box. Okay, it is the system. And so we have been under the rule of someone else's system. We've been playing in someone else's game. And at this time and space of where we are in our evolutionary journey, we have the choice, very, very, very great choice right now, to go, No, thank you. Polite pass. I'm going to create my own reality. And it's going to be easier than ever because the matrix is collapsing. It is absolutely collapsing. You can't look anywhere and not see the evidence of the system not being as rough and rugged. If anything, it's just kind of like it's still playing out. But where that's going to leave billions of people is in a state of confusion and uncertainty, right? Because we might have all hated the system, but at least like it was a familiar spirit, it was a familiar circumstance. And this is why humans stay in abusive relationships and stay in toxic jobs, because it's familiar. So letting go of the familiar is going to be the most difficult part for most people who don't feel safe, because when you don't feel safe, you're going to look for something that is familiar to hold on to. It's like the edge of the pool. You're going to find some edge to hold on to, and that might be the very thing that's biting you and hurting you, but it's familiar. So where we're going to be heading is into this like unknown, where all these timelines are yet to be created, and it's like a clean slate, right? It's like a fresh new version, but we don't want to be operating out of our old familiar spirits. We don't want to be operating out of the old circumstance. We don't want to use their system to create our future abundance or our future prosperity. We want to we want to learn from the mistakes of others, and we want to also discern and choose from a place of heart connection, not survival. Because when we manifest from survival, we are always 100% of the time manifesting with the matrix. Because when you are manifesting out of scarcity, survival, fear, okay, abuse, you are not manifesting from your toolbox. You're using the manifestation tools from someone else's game, that they've created the rules of how you can attract and manifest, and that is the only way that you can attract and manifest in their game. So when you decide, right, that you're going to become a sovereign being, a sovereign citizen, you're going to act on your free will, and you're going to start operating with your force. You're going to start using your conscious, your subconscious, your superconscious, and your unconscious to create and manifest your reality. Well, then that is going to put you into a state of uncertainty unless you know what tools you're going to need. So the tools that you're going to need in order to manifest and line up with your inheritance, your birthright of abundance, is going to be time. You have everything else, all right? Everything else you have, and you have time. So hopefully after this video, you're going to be able to look and use time differently, because you're not getting any more hours out of the day. It is about working smarter, not harder. And not every one of you is going to be able to pull the plug on everything that you are doing right now, work, right? Like paying all your bills, because you have belief systems that say you have to keep doing that. Now, if you didn't have belief systems that you needed to keep working, you would manifest a way not to work. But most of you still have this belief system that I have to work, and then I have to pay my bills, and I have to do these things. So you're going to have to work smarter, but not harder. And you're going to have to go through the rhythm of what you were doing, but you're going to be doing it differently. Okay. So all of the tools required to line up into the parallel reality where you are already in a state of prosperity, where you're already sovereign, where you're already free, where you're already healthy, where you're already in love with your community and in love with your body, and you have all the wonderful things that make up your dream world, are going to be how you align with what you already have access to. This isn't for you about recreating the wheel. It is about learning how to use your God-given tools properly, because the matrix teaches you or programs you, hypnotizes you, forces you to use your mind in a certain way, to discern your feelings in a certain way, and to act in a certain way. And those are all the things that manifest reality. So if you don't act the way the matrix wants you to act, then you're punished in that game. Okay. Like if you were ever really like a small kid and you were on the playground and you were playing with one of those like really controlling like bully girls or boys, and they were like forcing you to play their game the way they wanted to play, or they wouldn't let you play. It's the same thing, right? And so it's like, if you're going to play here, you've got to follow these rules. But now where we are is this crumbling, and a lot of people are going to be like, what do I do? And they're going to sit back and they're going to be hoping that the reset somehow is going to give them the security and the well-being that they want, and that ain't going to happen, because ultimately your personal vibration is going to create your personal reality. And so what you believe is going to be what hatches for you on the other side of the dismantling, which means that not everybody is going to immediately return into this prosperity state if you are in a belief of lack right now, because your universe is going to dominate even a collective change. That's how powerful you are. You could stay small when the roof is being blown off of your consciousness if you are in a state of lack, if the mindset is in lack. And I've always broken it up in my academy to teach it more, instead of mental states, is like actual states. So there's the state of scarcity, which I call scarcity. And when you live in scarcity, right, you're motivated through fear. You're motivated through lack. You're constantly praying from lack. You're asking from lack. You're thinking from lack. You're doing from lack. You're living from lack. And what that does is it creates more lack. And we don't even realize it, but whatever you're creating from the substance of is going to be what is on the back end of it. So if you get into a relationship because you're lacking love, by the end of that relationship, you're going to be lacking love. All right. If you take a job because you're lacking money, then somehow, even though you're giving your time away, you're going to end up lacking more money, because you created the job or manifested the job from scarcity. So if we're going to shift over into prosperity, then that means that how we think, how we feel, how we act, how we show up, every minute of that 24 hours a day is processed through the state of abundance first. So the same 24 hours a day that you had yesterday, you could use completely different today, and you could go from one state to another by basically just changing the program sequence that you use to think, feel, and act. All right. So you're going to use your mind. You're going to use your emotions. Okay. You're going to use your behavior. You're going to use your time. And most importantly, you're going to have your why. And that's going to give you your hand to play here. So we talked yesterday, if you didn't watch my live yesterday, I talked about the difference between your why, which is like your reason for existing, your reason for coming. It's like, what is your purpose? What is your passion? And it doesn't mean the 3D definition of that, which is like some, global sensation. This could be just being the best mother in the world, or, being the best gardener in the world. Really, it's your version of your most passionate, purposeful life. And it doesn't need to make sense for anyone else, because what you do organically from your heart radiates out to every other heart. So it affects change even if you never saw another human. So you don't need to worry about, well, if my purpose isn't big enough for mankind. Trust me, if you are living in your true purpose and passion, it affects the whole. Now, when you don't live your passion and purpose, it also affects the whole, because it puts into the collective a lot of separation, a lot of agony, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. And that's all energy that people do not think that is actually felt and utilized. But you realize that we are the micro of the macro of Earth. And so when we experience emotion, she experiences weather. So when I'm angry and it has nowhere to go and it all can't fit in my liver or in my body, then it's going to go out into the collective, and it's going to be magnetized to that which is like itself, and it's going to start clustering in certain places. So if you've noticed, like in your hometown, you might have a street corner that there's always an accident, right? That's where collective, accidents have occurred, and now there's a vortex of energy there. Okay, so if you pay attention, your energy doesn't die, it changes forms. We learned that. And so what we've got to do is we've got to be managing our own emotions. Because in order for us to have a new system, you guys, we have to start self-governing. Sounds easy, right? Governing your mind, governing your emotions, governing your actions, and governing your why. Because it's really easy to slip from prosperity over to scarcity like that. You could just have a bad phone call or a bill come in the mail, and all of a sudden you're living in a completely different state, and you might not recognize that now your entire operating system has changed, and you might not realize that. So you've got to be present to the why, because the why is going to help you then choose the right thought. The why is going to help you try to choose the right emotion. Yes, I'm saying choose the emotion. This is not an automatic anymore. We don't have time to just feel the feelings that the matrix is injecting into us, right? Which is lack and suffering and unworthiness and, the feeling of not being chosen, right? These are like your matrix hypnosis that the population has been under, is that we are not good enough. We don't have enough. This is all lack. So the entire matrix programs you to be in lack of that which you are actually naturally abundant in. A child of God could never be unworthy, right? Unless you believe that. And because you are so powerful, you can create a reality where you manifest not feeling worthy of your family, of your partner, of money. And because what you give energy to and pay attention to actualizes, well, then what happens is you start giving your ego physical proof. Well, see, I'm not good enough. It just happened again and again and again. And the only issue here was that you were operating your whole system out of scarcity instead of prosperity. So the reason why I'm saying time is your currency is because it's going to take time to clear the programming out and to reprogram yourself so that you don't start glitching back and forth. Because when you're like in that double-minded energy, you'll notice that nothing happens, or it's 10 steps forward, 10 steps back. Like you'll get the promotion, but then, you don't get the pay raise or something. It's going to be something if you're playing in both energies. If you're playing in scarcity and prosperity, it usually neutralizes itself out, and it ends up costing you more time and more money, and it costs you faith, because then you start to lose faith. Now, you're only going to need faith in who you are as a creator, and the fact that prosperity, which is the same energy as breath, it is the same energy as life, everything that is in nature that is organic. I'm not talking about man-made stuff. I'm talking about organic nature, and you fall into the category of that, is always in a state of prosperity. Now, it might be in a different season of its prosperity. So in the winter time, you might look at a tree and be like, that's not prosperity, but it is hibernating, and it is 100% in a state of prosperity because it's the ebb and flow cycle, which humans have as well. We have an ebb and flow cycle. So if I think, okay, well, God doesn't love that squirrel out there more than he loves me, right? So why would I think that the squirrel's allowed to eat, but I'm not? These are the things you really want to be questioning when you've been under the hypnosis. Because the hypnosis is constantly, from every angle, telling you that you are unworthy and that you are not enough, that you're running out of time, you need to hurry up and wait. And there is all of these constant distractions and distortions to get you out of prosperity, right? Have you guys noticed when you start having a really good time, it's like the bottom falls out? And now you're back in scarcity and you're thinking, does this even work? Because the brain is a natural problem solver. So when something bad happens, it's much easier to believe than when the miracle happens, right? I could be sitting here with Jesus today and you could be like, oh my gosh, she's talking to Jesus. In 3 days, your mind would be like, I don't think that happened. Because the way the mind is set is that if it's not circumstantial proof and evidence in this now moment that I can see, it's not real. And that isn't who you are as a creator. You're here to create substance from visualization Act as if, live in the end, and live from the self-concept that you already have it in order for it to manifest. So it is super important that you're using your 24 hours a day as your currency. So yes, we're going to have a major financial reset. How that looks, there's 3 or 4 different timelines of how that's going to unfold. It's going to be a win-win for humanity, but it's going to be rough in the middle. Okay. And it's going to actualize and really stabilize around 2033. Now, in between that time, we're going to be clearing, we're going to be deprogramming, we're going to be reorganizing. So what is going to be super essential for these next few years is what I call spiritual equity, which means creating equity in this relationship with you as a creator. Fundamentally, not being codependent on anyone or anything except who you are as a manifesting being. Because if you know that no matter what money system is going on, that you have the vibration of prosperity, then any form of currency is going to line up perfectly for you. If you are cash rich, but spiritually poor, what happens if the dollar goes? Okay, what happens if you put all of your money in Bitcoin, but you don't meditate and you don't love yourself, right? Because again, we're moving into this golden age, which is, it is unconditional love. It's unity. It's community. We're going to be all working together. And in order for us to work together, we have to love ourselves first, because if I love me, then I can love you. If I don't love me, I'll probably have a problem with you. And that's how it works. So the first thing is spiritual equity, spiritual hygiene, okay? Spiritual weightlifting. And what that means is that you get right with the spirit of who you actually are. Instead of trying to work for your worth by doing, by achieving, by learning, by studying, you get right with remembering who you are in your heart and realizing that you're a child of God who did not come here to earn, you came here to be. Because when you are a child, you earn your keep in your home through love, right? Your parents just want you to be your best self, and that is the exchange for food and rent. You know, they're not asking you for a rent payment when you're 3 years old, because what you're giving them is love and joy and a reason for living. And so that is so essential that at some point in the matrix, that job doesn't seem good enough. And now it's like, well, what are you going to do for this? And we're the only species on the planet that actually has to earn their keep. And yet we have the power to be in our God creator suit. And this is why you have to pay, because they use time to distract you from your superpower. You know, it's like most of the people that I know manifest, or they're working on manifesting because they think something's wrong with them. Well, if I get the money, I will feel better. If I have the house, I will know I'm worthy. And what we want to do is use the time to build the spiritual equity, to program our mind the way we choose, which means the spirit of who you are as a child of God has to start directing your own mind. Your thoughts are not yours. The thoughts that you're thinking that you did not choose are not necessarily yours. Matter of fact, the matrix is constantly hypnotizing you and pushing thoughts into you constantly that are all in harmony of lack. They're all in the vibration of lack. That's why it's so easy to fall out of confidence. That's why it's so easy for you to fall out of harmony with your prosperity feelings, because you're being bombarded. And the reason why they do that is because if you start realizing how worthy you are, you're going to stop playing their game. And every aspect of you is harvested here. Okay? Your energy is harvested. Your mental thoughts are used. Your emotions are used. Your biological compound is used. Your organs are used, okay? Your manpower is used. Your time is used. And so if they lose just one of you, they lose the system. Because one person who breaks away from the matrix and actually becomes a sovereign citizen and creates their own matrix can affect 750,000 other people and inspire that many people with just becoming sovereign on your own. This is Abraham Hicks 101. Okay? I'm not making this stuff up. This has been here. This is proven. And it only takes 68 seconds to create a reality in the fourth dimension that can be actualized if you can stop moving from world to world, which means that you need to decide not what do I need to do to get wealthy or to do to get healthy or to do to get love, but how do I want to be and how do I want to live? And then you're going to choose the state of being. And you're going to anchor in and you're going to dig your feet into the sand and you're not going to budge no matter what happens. And this is where like self-concept work of Neville Goddard comes in. It's really great because there's a lot of study on that. But ultimately, now that the matrix is crumbling, you guys, this is actually going to be a lot easier because although you might be inundated with old programming in your body, the skies are going to start clearing out, right? The hypnosis is going to slow down so that you can actually have an opportunity to deprogram. It's very difficult to brush your teeth while you're eating Oreos. So this was harder to do before, but if you stop eating the cookies, well, then you can brush your teeth. So now that the hypnosis is going to be dying down quite a bit, this is the best time to take your time back, which means like, let me show you how you can do this. Let's say you're in jail right now, or you would consider your job jail. And let's say you absolutely hate it, or you're stuck somewhere and you have no money and you have no way to get out of it. You are Houdini. You said, imprison me, lock me in prison, and I will escape, which means I will manifest my way out of it because all I need is my time. Now, you might be doing a crappy job with your time and you're thinking, oh, Jess, how am I going to do this because I have to work this crappy job? But you still have access to your thoughts in that job. You still can produce your own emotion in that job. You can still choose the behavior and how you demonstrate in that job, even if you're on someone else's clock. You could utilize every minute differently, and you could basically move from their matrix into your own matrix by just using the force, right? So the first thing you want to do is you want to find your most prosperous why, okay? Who are you in your greatest version of yourself? And what is your gift to the world? What is it that you want to share? What is it that you want to do? How do you want to feel, right? What do you want to have? These are all very important things that you tend to forget about when you're living in survival. When you're in survival, you're like, yeah, the dreams are on the back burner. I got to get through the week. That is the worst case of slavery that there is, especially when you have every superpower inside of you and you're just choosing to use it incorrectly. Because we all have the same superpowers. Nobody's gifted here and ain't nobody special. But there are certain people that think differently and don't think about, I've got to work my 40 years to get a pension, which probably won't exist at this time anymore, or I can work 40 days, think differently, feel differently, act differently, and then manifest retirement in 40 days. Because it doesn't take long to anchor and build a new game if you are diligent, if you are obsessed, if you are in the right state of being, and if you are using your mental energy, your emotional energy, and your behavior that lines up with your why. So you've got to see right now, what is your why? If your why is survival, then you're in scarcity, which means that you're going to be manifesting in scarcity. No matter how good it looks, it's always going to end in scarcity. It's always going to end in lack. It's always going to end in suffering. Someone's going to get their heart broken. Somebody's going to lose their freedom. You're going to get a bonus check, and then you're going to get a big ticket in the mail, because that's the way scarcity is designed, and it will never be different, which means when you manifest, pray, use your tools from a state of lack, you will always get lack on the back end. Even if you get a little bit of abundance, I guess a carrot, The carrot is designed to lead you deeper into the system. It's never, ever going to be what you could create from a state of prosperity, which means that when you are using your mind in prosperity, you're using the viewpoint that you already have it somewhere, that it's already belongs to you. It's not, where do I get it? How do I get it? I don't know how to get it. That's all lack. Prosperity is, I already have it. And now I'm just going to line up my energy, animate my character, my avatar to the same vibration of where it is. And then I will hit the rendezvous point, right? So like if I'm asking for, my inheritance from the creator, like let's say you're reading all about maritime law, and you're realizing that your birth certificate is worth billions of dollars and your social security is like worth all this money, and you're like, how do I get this? Okay, well, running out and going and trying to hack the system and filing paperwork from someone you saw on TikTok isn't the way to go if you're going to start in scarcity. So what you want to do is you want to start in prosperity, and you want to start claiming that you are a sovereign citizen, and you want to start behaving as one, thinking like one, emoting your energy as one. Then that's going to line you up with the right person who knows the exact paperwork to file for you. You see? So doing and becoming the essence of the sovereign citizen is more important than trying to become a sovereign citizen. Because remember, if you try to become a sovereign citizen in their game, there's booby traps. It's set up for you to fail because they created their game, and it's free will. They're allowed to create their game. And when you're playing their game, you have to follow their rules. But if you start to animate a different character, and a character that doesn't fit in their game is a sovereign citizen. So if you start animating, thinking as, pretending you are, emoting the feelings as, okay, even if you're in the jail cell, but you are acting as if, then what's going to happen is you're going to manifest and attract people, places, and things, and environments that are also living in that sovereign state that will go, oh, here's the logical next step. And by the way, you don't have to jump through any of the hoops. You cannot break the matrix down as a slave. You're playing the game. If you're manifesting from scarcity, you have agreed to play their game. If you're going to manifest from prosperity, you're playing your own game. And that's when it gets really fun. So you always want to look at your why, not from a place of where I want to get to, but a place that I'm actually starting from. Right? So it's like we go and look at the scripture, and it was the 7 days of creation. Notice that God didn't put seeds everywhere and didn't put eggs around. He put full-grown animals and full-grown trees because he went to the end first. So you create the end first. You create it. I already have this. I already am this. I've always been this. And I've just been under this hypnosis playing someone else's game. And now I'm ready to play my own game. So if I play my own game as a sovereign citizen, as a child of God, as prosperity is my birthright, which is abundance is my natural state, then I'm going to think every thought and use every emotion and direct my energy into already having. And then all I have to do is get my body vibration to the vibration of that prosperity. And then people, places, and things and events will line up perfectly. So why I'm saying time is your currency is because we have been under this hypnosis for so long that your body, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions are actually so much more programmed to be part of the system than you might be aware of. And so really, the only thing that takes time here is to recognize the thoughts that are in scarcity and switch them over. So there is like a retraining. It's like a cellular memory. It's like a muscle memory. And so let's say you have to drive a school bus or something and you just absolutely hate it. Okay, but what are the thoughts you could be thinking while you're driving? What are the conversations you could be having with yourself while you're doing something mundane? What is the emotions that you could generate, right? Where could you be instead? Because one thing that will always be free is our imagination. And you can use your imagination through prosperity, which is abundance, which is overflow, which is infinite supply, which is win-win, which is love, harmony, kindness, generosity. Or you can use your imagination in scarcity, and you can go into scenario thinking about what can go wrong and how you're going to stretch $10 over a month and what you're going to do if this doesn't work out. And you can use the creative force of nature, which is your imagination, to protect yourself from the vibration of scarcity. Or you could be like, I'm done with scarcity and I would like to live in prosperity, please. Change of address. And so when you put that change of address in, you've got to anchor and root yourself into your why. Otherwise, it's going to be so easy to slip into someone else's why. And you're going to lose focus on what your thoughts are. But if you know your why, then you do not let your thinking mind go outside of the why. You do not let your emotions go outside of the why. You do not let yourself behave outside of the why, which means that your behavior isn't going to be someone who's complaining about the system, because you don't live in the system, right? You're driving the car and you're thinking, this is so temporary until my all of my prosperity comes in. You're having completely different thoughts. You're having completely different emotions. And then the way you speak, remember, your words are spells. You're either cursing yourself, right, or blessing yourself by the words that you speak. And the words that you speak will tell you what state you live in, right? Someone could have $10 and they could be in a state of prosperity. Someone could have $10 and be in a state of scarcity. And all it is a choice. Because you're going to have to make the $10 feel like 10 million, because you're the child who can pretend. This is why the scripture says you have to be like a child to enter the kingdom, because the child is going to pretend that they're not in jail. The child is going to pretend that they're not driving a school bus, that they're, on some beautiful vacation while they're driving through traffic, that they're already living as, they're already speaking as, they're already changing their body to align, they're preparing themselves, they're practicing and preparing and playing, and you're going to use your time for that. But if you say, well, I work and there's no time to meditate and I have to do this and I have this obligation and I have this obligation, but see, all of those obligations, you could have different thoughts in those obligations. You could be at someone's wedding and think differently. You could be driving a cab and think differently. And it only requires that which you think, that which you feel, and that which you do that is in harmony with prosperity, even if you're doing all of it in a jail cell, even if you're doing all of it in a crappy job, okay? Because I'm going to tell you, you're here to be the Houdini. So you're in the box with no key, and you're going to get yourself out. So you're not going to do this in perfection. You wouldn't need to do that. So we're all going to start in that scarcity game, and then we're going to make a choice. And so your why is going to determine, okay, these are the thoughts I'm going to let myself think. And if any other thoughts come out, I'm going to say, I'm no longer living in scarcity, so I don't have to think that way. I'm no longer going to be manifesting scarcity, so I don't have to plan for the worst. I don't have to scenario think about what's going to happen if, because that's using your creative God power to manifest potential, more scarcity potentials, because you're trying to protect yourself, which is a matrix hypnosis. And we've all done it, right? You're like, well, I'm going to plan for the worst, or what if this happens? But what you don't realize is you're using imagination to do that, which you're creating a timeline in the fourth dimension that will actualize, and it will populate, and it will become form if you give too much time, energy, thoughts, emotion, and feelings to it. So study your behavior. How am I acting? Am I acting like someone who lives in prosperity, or am I still acting like someone who lives in scarcity? Even if you are literally, you can say, I'm in scarcity here. The way you think, act, and feel is the only thing required for you to shift into a different state. And you're going to have to use your time, because you have 24 hours a day, but you do not need to call and quit your job. You do not need to run away from home. You do not need to get out of the relationship. You do not need to go on a diet. You do not need to go out and make more money. The only thing you need to do is use your time to take back your mind, take back your emotions, which means that you're having a thought and you decide, how do I want to feel about this? You can generate a mood, and a mood is what we call manifestation and creation, because when I put a thought and a feeling together, it becomes like a movie, and now there's energy behind it, and it makes me want to act out something. And as soon as I animate myself, well, then I'm either the character of scarcity or the character of prosperity. So when you watch your own behavior with no judgment, you can be like, I'm acting like I'm in scarcity over here. I'm glad I witnessed that. So if you're not sure of where your thoughts are, just look at your own behavior. It'll tell you exactly the summation of the marriage between the masculine and the feminine, which is the mind, thought, and the emotion, which is feminine, and the action is the inner child. The embodiment of your behavior is who you believe you are. So if you say you're stuck, because you are the creator. If you say that you're stuck in the matrix, then you're stuck in the matrix. If you say, I'm tired of being over there, I'm going to live in prosperity, you're going to have to use every single minute of every day that you're awake in order to reprogram. And just take a few minutes, because let's see, how old are you? You spent this whole time practicing in their game, which is, even rich people are still living in scarcity in some ways. And I wouldn't say they're rich. If they're living in the matrix in the system, they're still playing someone else's game, which means they're not sovereign, which means that wealth or that money could go away as easy as the money could go away. So when you do this, when you do the work of living in prosperity, you're building spiritual equity, which means that you're not focused on what kind of dollar you're going to get. You're just focused on having all of them. And you are able to get whatever you want, because it's not really what you want, it's who you are inside. And your definition of prosperity may not to be living in a big mansion with cars. Your definition of prosperity might be living off the land in like a cool cabin, in the hills, but just having space and time. Because prosperity is basically doing what you want to do when you want to do it, being with who you want to be with, having what you want to have, right? And being able to go where you want to go. So prosperity is never ending overflow. So keep in mind that it doesn't run out when you're creating from source energy. When you're creating from battery operated energy, you are 100% in scarcity, which means that you're going to be in feast or famine, and you're going to be in the energy of hurry up and wait. And when you find yourself in that vibration, all you're going to do is stop time, reset. Like I said yesterday in video, you're going to get into the stillness. You're going to get back into the heartbeat of Mother Earth. And now you're back in the vibration of source energy. So you're going to pull out of the game. You're going to reset. You're going to go into the stillness. You're going to remember who you are. You're going to remember what world you want to live in. You're going to remember how free you are. And then as you come out of the stillness, your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and behavior are going to line up with your why, no matter what. Now, the Mr. Smith is going to show up. Okay, the scarcity is going to show up. All the little things, the echoes are going to show up, and you're going to method act your way into prosperity until enough form vibrates out of the emotional power of your spirit, that once the form starts to take place and it gives you the physical proof, well, then your ego will go, oh, you really are who you say you are. But the whole world might be against you until you create enough equity, enough form out of holding that vibration. But once that proof starts to come in, then you won't have to use your time to create prosperity. You'll live in prosperity. Okay, so that is the Jedi Mind hack of the day. I hope you guys got a little nugget of that, because it really is that easy if you decide it is. And it's difficult when we are programmed to constantly get kicked back into scarcity, which you will. and you're just going to use your time to go, I have 15 whole minutes right now where I'm sitting here waiting at the DMV. I could be thinking whatever I want. I could be feeling whatever I want. I could be visualizing whatever I want. Okay. I can go on my phone and look at what I want to look at versus what social media is telling me to look at. All right. You get to choose. But if you do not believe that you have a choice, then you're always going to be in scarcity, even if you think that sometimes you're in abundance. So happy prosperity moving. Your true state of being is prosperity. And, it's putting in the effort for your why. So your why has to be bigger than why me or why not me. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow.